Welcome everyone to another episode of Dynamics Corner. What does it take to become, what even is an MVP? I'm your co-host, Kris.
And this is Brad. This episode is recorded on June 3rd, 2025. Kris. What does it take to become a Business Essential MVP? And what does it mean to be a Business Essential MVP? And also, what is the co-development program? Well, with us today, we had the opportunity to talk about all that and more with Jesper. Afternoon.
Take two.
Good afternoon. How are you doing?
Take two. Yes. I always want to try my fancy new headset, but for whatever reason, they decide to work every other time. I do not know what it is, but if the sound quality is all right like this, then we're just going to use my setup here.
You know, sometimes you can't beat just the old school wired ones.
Yeah, I'm tempted to buy one of those, I must admit.
I went to the wired ones a while ago because the batteries, as much as they say, oh, you have 8-hour battery life, or you have this, it just becomes more of a problem. And I found I was always charging them. And,
especially like sometimes they want to tell you like, hey, now you've got 50% left, and it's right in the middle of a conversation, so you get completely thrown.
So off.
So wired it is next time when I talk to you gentlemen, it'll be with a wired headset.
Yeah, it's great. I haven't spoken to you. It feels like I haven't spoken or seen you in 20 years.
20 years? I actually checked. I think last time was
San Diego.
On the show, like was it San Diego?
No, it was Orlando. Yeah, Orlando.
Yeah, I didn't join Directions NA this time around because the travel, and there are so many conferences.
No, there's a lot of conferences and scheduling with work and everything. We understand. I understand. It's just like with us. I can't make every conference or every event. It becomes a challenge, both physically, wear and tear on your body, but then also work and life and everything. So there's a big balance and everything too. So
I just came back from Dynamics Minds actually, which was a refreshingly different kind of conference because normally I tend to go to Directions, which even though Directions EMEA and Directions NA are slightly different, but it's still kind of built up in the same way, whereas the Dynamics Minds was very, very, should we say, community-focused.
Wow.
That's excellent.
So that was like with a lot of social events in the evenings and also some like less technical sessions, but more like sessions, they call it the fifth track, but sessions that, gets your mind going, like...
Philosophical?
I went to this one... panel discussion that was with where they discussed what is AI going to do to our productivity and will it finally be that we get some something out of it. I mean, normally when something boosts your productivity, well, that just means someone else pours more on your plate and you just have to do other things, right? So but you will get more productive, but you won't really gain anything from these productivity tools that should ideally help you in your life, right? And then it kind of took that discussion and they went on for an hour or something discussing back and forth with a very interesting panel in Donna Chicago.
You just tipped my mind because I'll unpack a lot because one thing I realized, and I didn't have the opportunity to speak with it, I know I'd spoken with Kris and a few others about it, that this last Directions conference is those types of sessions. I think what we're missing in some of these types of sessions some of these events, and the Dynamics Minds looked amazing from afar. I always say I have to get over there, but the scheduling in like this time of year is extremely difficult. This whole May, June period is extremely difficult. So sometimes when you have these conferences, and even more so with me this year, because I even had to withdraw from Dynamics Con for personal reasons. So I had to pull out of the conference. So I was out of the loop from a lot of things for about 6 weeks. But with these conferences and such, I like to hear that's refreshing is a lot of these conferences, they're all wonderful, a lot of valuable information. We talk often about, okay, here's a new feature, or here's this, or here's that. But what I realized at Directions after going through a few sessions, sometimes what we're missing is like the practical use of some of these, right? So what you're saying to get your mind going, to get your mind thinking, now we have this new feature, how can we apply it? Let's instead of just saying, okay, here, you click this, you do that, it's okay. Well, let's just say we have this scenario and you have to go through this to kind of walk through it versus just defining it from a technical point of view.
I
I
mean,
think
with
that's
AI, wouldn't it be great if like would give you some time back and you could actually spend that time with your family or maybe doing some more things that we human beings were designed to do? I just fear, it's just going to enable us to do more again, and we're going to be even more efficient, even more productive. But sometimes I feel like, hey, maybe I could get more productive if there would be more Jesper time or Jesper and his family time, and sometimes, have a day where you get bored and you just, let your thoughts simmer for a while, and then you come back completely re-energized to work, and you will have, amazing ideas rather than you always, chasing. So anyway, that's what these sessions do, right? They kind of start some thoughts, and you just kind of like,
you hit it right there, because it's true.
Yeah.
When I used to do a lot of hiking, I used to come back and I used to do a lot of thinking because I was clear. And as you said, it's the working 8 hours a day, or excuse me, not even 8 hours, working 20 hours a day, or working. It doesn't mean that you're more productive. See, you're hitting the key words. And I think what we really need to change, to your point, where these AI tools will make us more efficient because we can do more, right? Or you can do other complex things faster because you have AI
perhaps
helping.
that matters, right,
But
Brad? Like
the
time that matters to you back. Yeah.
But what we need to
the
do,
boring
though, is
stuff, let the AI take care of that.
Yeah.
Right? We should do the
Yes.
things that we're passionate about and that excite us, and then maybe have some more time to do nothing and think big thoughts.
I think we have to change. It's the time value, the time value of money, or the time value money. Like, we value things by time. And I think that for us to be able to truly adopt the AI efficiencies, I think and for people to be able to have, like everyone talks about the work-life balance or all those other things, to your point, I think we need to change how we measure, right? It's not measuring Jesper's working 8 hours a day. It's Jesper's producing this in the time that he's working, which now, if you're using the tools and such to help you, there's still value in that. And then maybe you'll get a little more time for the creativity and the thought, which also will allow you to produce more. It's not to say that you go off on vacation and you don't think about anything, but like you had mentioned, sometimes having that downtime is, you could send me on a tangent.
Yeah,
I'm
like
sorry.
Brad and I talked about this. So we actually trying to figure out what we could do, a separate segment on this podcast called Dynamics Corner Unplugged, where we talk about dynamics, but we also look at the impact that can provide you in your life, where you do something outside, maybe more strategic conversations within your organization, because something's, AI is taking care of the boring stuff, like you said, where you can just focus on being creative, strategic, and then kind of help picture that for all the audience to understand you can do more fun stuff while AI is doing all the boring stuff, right? Those conversations needs to happen more often, because then people get excited. Like, well, now I want to do AI because I can get to do all this stuff, fun stuff, spend more time with family, be more strategic. So we need more of those.
Let's see what humanity makes of this AI. I think we have a chance here to do things differently from the other previous centuries or millennials or whatever. we got some productivity tools. We were pretty good at figuring out, let's do something else.
No, I hope so. I think you're right. I think with everything, we're about to have a shift. But there's a lot of things I want to talk about. It was great to see you again, and virtually great to talk with you again. I've always enjoyed the conversation with you. But before we jump into so many things I'd like to talk with you about, would you mind telling us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so I'm Jesper. And last time we spoke, I think, was in February 2024, where we, spoke a lot about co-development, our, should we say, open source ambitions on the Business Central team. And back then, I just stepped into my new role as I call it an individual contributor, but that means that I no longer have a team to manage, but I've turned my focus completely over to the partner channel. And well, now I'm a year into that role, right? So one would think, a lot has changed, but it's kind of looking back, and the time just flies by so fast. So when it comes to the co-development open source story in Business Central, it's pretty much status quo. I have dedicated a lot more of my time on that because that is my love child, if you will. I really, especially looking at how much is happening and how quick things are moving out there, I think it's more important than ever that the product group and the partner channel move closer together, and that we kind of help each other where we can, rather than reinventing the wheel and in all corners of the app. And I think if we just get, should we call it, the application platform right, then we can focus on, maybe Microsoft looks at the agents part and, hey, how can we automate and infuse everything with AI? Of course, partners as well. But if we take more like the platform approach and the give you the tools that you need to build great AI, and then we collaborate together on the features, because without the right features in the product, AI will not be able to help us much either, right? So, but I think there's a huge opportunity there for us to like really get ahead of the game and quite frankly outpace our competition, because the partner channel is vast, and I think I still think this is the right way. So that's why I spent a lot of my time trying to push the story forward. But I very quickly realized that me as a one-man army trying to push that story is not going to work. I just hit my cap, like how many pull requests on GitHub can I process a day? Turns out the answer is 1.5. So, in average, and then then we had, like, I think in 2024 Wave 2 release, we had 156 code contributions from a partner in the product, and then the other one was 2 more, so it's still below the 160, but it seems like around 160, that's where the cap is. So then I thought, okay, fine. Well, I also need to then think new thoughts. How can we get around the bottleneck that is me? And that's what I've been spending a lot of my time on in the past year, trying to crack that nut.
It's tough. It's difficult to replicate yourself, but you can use maybe AI to help you.
Yeah, but also I shouldn't replicate myself, right? I should, because there's no need to have multiple Jespers. It should more be that lies in the name co-development. That's why we don't call it contribution model anymore. It's literally we want the entire AL code base to be something that we jointly develop. It doesn't matter if you're a partner developer. It doesn't matter if you're a Microsoft engineer. We should all be able to jointly develop on this thing. And of course, you still need someone to judge, hey, is this feature for the greater good, or is that maybe more for a vertical niche? And currently, that's a little bit where the bottleneck is. So that's our program managers, product managers, and or like the internal Microsoft engineers. I'm kind of looking into, like, hey, you guys are just as well equipped to make these calls, right? If you see a feature suggestion on BC Ideas, and let's just say 20 different partners from 20 different verticals say, like, hey, that would be very cool to have in the application platform, then who am I to say no? I mean, the people have spoken, right? So I'm hoping that we can go in that direction, and that it becomes more self-driven, and that some community member says, like, hey, I'm going to wear the product manager hat today, and I'm going to read through the specs and going to pass them to someone else to sanity check, and then someone else says, like, well, I'm going to be a tester, well, I'm going to be the developer, and then you kind of build this little virtual V team centered around GitHub. You find the feature you want to develop, and when everyone is happy, of course, there's a check here at Microsoft that are all the quality gates, do we live up to these, and so on, and does it really make sense? But in the end, conceptually, I don't think Microsoft needs to be involved in every smaller addition to the platform.
No, I agree with you. I can see that work, and I can and think it's working. And again, the ability to have a different viewpoint on what features make it into the application, because I know a lot of features come from the development team there at Microsoft, and also, as you'd mentioned, the co-development individuals add to it. So there has to be a mix of what actually should make it into the application. And I always go back to, as long as it doesn't get to the point where it becomes overly complex to use it. That's always been one of my fears with anything with an evolution. If you keep adding features and functionality, it gets to where it's difficult to keep up with it, or maybe difficult to know exactly what's there. And at the rate of release versus the rate of adoption from the partner point of view, and then also the rate of adoption from the customer point of view, because to go back to what we're saying earlier about being productive and be able to do more, it's all these new things are added. The partners need time to absorb it, as well as the customers, right? So if you look at, even if you went with the partners are primarily helping the customers, some customers can be self-sufficient because they have a large enough team on their own. It's how long does it take for those features to flow down to where they actually get widespread use, to where you're not already piling on more features because now the next wave comes out. So it's a challenge, I see.
The adoption. You had to give them some time to adopt.
But ideally, so this is a completely different topic, but also something that the Business Central team is looking very much into, right? It's like, can we somehow maybe manage the rollout of features to a higher degree than we do now? Because right now, as you said, every half a year a release comes along and boof, you get the features whether you like it or not. Of course, some of them are hidden behind feature switches, some of them are hidden, behind some settings. But generally, you will get the features, right? Now, how about that we would release features and they just and you just give the partners, should we say, infinite time to ramp up, to build their verticalizations on that feature. And when they say they're ready and the customer is actually requiring this feature and saying, like, hey, we need it now, well, then we roll it out. That is so much easier said than done, but that would be super cool, because that would take away, yes, a new wave would come and new possibilities would come, but the customer wouldn't experience much change.
I don't know if there is a right answer. I mean, I think anyone will take a different view, because a lot of the features and functionality are great, because you also have new implementations as well. So they could take advantage of it, and then you have the existing. So it's just something. Just a little.
Some of them we're interested in rolling out, and then that would still.
It's something. Listen. I am. I've been passionate about the product my entire life. I still am passionate, and I'm still excited about every release and feature. And I love the way things are going, even with the co-development. I mean, I think everybody to have the opportunity to contribute, to assist, instead of like I'm one of those. Instead of complaining, you can actually do something. So do something, and you have the opportunity. So if you're not doing, then don't complain, as I said. So enough of that. So I'm glad to see it's going well. So what have you been working on with the partner channel in this past year in your new role?
Yeah, so I mean, I try to, how should I not put that? So I try to be a partner ambassador, if you will, within the product group. Mostly, just being out there on either in person on conferences or, on Viva Engage /Yammer or on X, and just listening and kind of, when I see someone, just maybe being upset about something, then tries to take that back and say, like, okay, what actually happened here? And then does that person have a point? And if there is a point, then make sure that we, A, fix the issue, and then B, learn from it. Because very often, we are so extremely busy, and then, we would just sprint forward and kind of maybe forget to learn from our mistakes, which is one of the most important things that we can do, right? Because mistakes will be made, that is inevitable. But I think it's our, as long as we learn from them, then I think it's all worth it, right? So maybe sometimes to slow down and say, like, hey, here's a partner, and that partner has a point. What do you think? So that's one of the things that I've been trying to spend a little time on. And then the other thing that, the two of you are MVPs, so you probably know, but I am also trying to take our MVP program to new heights. Now, maybe I don't know how much people know about the MVP program. So
that's what I wanted to get into. Is I was just about to ask some questions about that, because it's long before even I was became honored to become part of the group or to have that. I had some questions about it myself. So with you being the one as sort of the program ambassador for Business Central, maybe you could tell us a little bit about the program. So the MVP acronym, you see people say most valuable player, most valuable person. From the Microsoft point of view, what does the MVP mean?
It's the most valuable professionals. So it's partners that are, should we say, community leaders that have shown or have found a niche in the community where other community members will look towards them for guidance or to be inspired or, as leaders of the broader community. And the community is large, as you know, right? I mean, it's multiple thousands of people. Whereas the group of MVPs, even though it has grown in the past 3 years from approximately 30 to now we are almost 70, but it's still just a very small subset of what is the Business Central community, right?
So for the Business Central product, there are 70 Microsoft valuable professionals. What is it again? Most valuable
Most
Microsoft?
valuable professionals.
Most valuable professionals, yes.
Okay.
They are kind of divided into two sections. We've got the functional consultants that know everything about how a business center is supposed to work, and then we've got the technical specialists that maybe are a little bit more on the geeky side of things, being more hardcore developers or knowing the technical
That's
ins and
the
outs.
best side to be on, by the way. I mean, I love the functional
Oh,
stuff, and I do the functional.
There are even some that are in both camps, which is even more impressive when you've got both skills.
Yes, that's how we learn to survive. Is you can put your foot in both camps. That way, when there's a flow. So there are 70 professionals for Business Central in the MVP program, and we see them out there. And you had mentioned that those are individuals that are inspiration to others, or people look to for I don't want to say guidance, but they look up to for inspiration, as you say, which is good. What does it take to become an MVP?
Yeah, as I said before, like you should probably find your niche. So if you go just about 10 years back, there weren't all that many conferences, and back then it was plenty if you were one of the people who really had an area of expertise, and then you would then go on a tour to the conferences that were around the world, and you would then be a speaker and just share your knowledge, because that actually already makes you a specialist in that area, right? I mean, people will come to you and say, "Oh, well, you know everything there is about item tracking," and then you would become that de facto MVP in that area. Now that is not fully enough anymore, I would say, because with that many conferences being there and that many speakers, and also the community as a whole growing, that would mean that by that definition we would have 500 MVPs or something, and that's more than we can handle. So I would say to if you have aspirations of becoming an MVP, first, so diversity is maybe a good word to use here. First, you need to find then an area where that isn't already well covered. So being a speaker in the United States is not enough, because we have plenty that do that. So get a second leg to stand on. Even better, I mean, of course, you can't help in which region you're born into. So, but even better, there are regions in the world that have fewer MVPs than others, right? So Europe and the US, or North America, I should say, are pretty well equipped. If we go to Africa, I think Business Central has 1, and if you go to South America, there's 0. So out there, if you happen to be a community leader, organizing user groups in Brazil, Argentina, whatever, or maybe the entire South America, and you actually manage to pull that off, right? You stand a pretty good chance of becoming an MVP in the Business Central team. Of course, you can also still live in the US. It doesn't matter where you're born or where you will live. It's where you do your things, right? I mean, it's where you help the community. So that's one. We want to cover the entire globe, and whenever part in the world you are. If you're looking for a community leader, if you're looking for someone to orchestrate, so we say user groups and whatnot.
Another good one. I know last year, Brad and I were talking about this. One of the things that my goal is to work with other MVPs. So I had an opportunity to work with other MVPs from all the other different categories, right? Power Platform and CE, and so we put and I think Cecile and I as well. She's a BC MVP, and we created a community in the Philippines. And it's like, well, we've never done one before. So we did one together, and it was fascinating because they didn't quite understand or know about Business Central. So, you know what I mean? Like it was so cool to see that there's other young professionals that want to do ERP, and Business Central is one of the things that was presented. So it's pretty cool to, that's an opportunity for us. With all the technologies available, you could do all of this remotely, because we all live in different parts of the world, and we just met every Saturday morning at 6 in the morning my time, every Saturday, put a community together, and then seeing it all come into fruition. It's fascinating. It gives a lot of giving back to the community, right? I think that's one of the big components about becoming or being an MVP is that you want to give back that knowledge that you also got an opportunity, because I learned from other MVPs as well, right? So it's inspiring to work towards that.
Yeah, and it's a great example that you bring there, right, with the Philippines. I mean, emerging markets, and you maybe leading the way for another for young talent there. I mean, that is exactly what it means to be an MVP.
Yeah.
And of course, you don't necessarily. I mean, that there. Now we're just touching upon these user groups and being a community roadmap. But of course, if you're just excelling and creating great videos, maybe taking away the complexity of things and explaining them in a way that other people understand them, that is also a great way to help the community. Writing blogs, even books, if you have that kind of gift that you can put together one of these. So yeah, I mean, there are many ways to be a community leader. But find your niche. Find something that is not already done by others.
So to pull it back, an MVP, as you had mentioned, is someone who's an inspiration, who's a community leader, who helps drive Business Central forward in areas and continue to be in areas that may not be covered, as you had mentioned. So, I mean, there may be many speakers, not to say that being a speaker doesn't make you influential in a sense, or to show that you demonstrate your passion, but it's a little bit more sometimes to go beyond. And as you had mentioned, the underserved markets that may not have the visibility of Business Central to get involved there, to bring education, knowledge to users in a way that I don't want to say glorifies, but makes and helps with the adoption of the use of the product.
If you want to stay in the US and you want to become an MVP there, that's also, of course, you can also do that. I'm just saying the competition is a little bit more fierce there.
No, I understand what you're saying. I'm just trying to say some ideas.
This podcast is a great way. I mean, this is one of the examples of something that really worked. And now if someone else comes along, like, yeah, I can do that too. Well, now you've got something to beat, right? I mean, we don't need Dynamics Corner and Dynamics Street. So there's like
I love
this
it.
So sure, if you're in for a little competition, then by all means try to create a competing podcast in the US. But else maybe find something else where because there are so many areas both functional areas, but also regions in the world that where the community is weaker, or where there could be.
I like the way that you explain it. Find a niche or find something that's unique and different that brings additional value to the Business Central product. And again, it doesn't matter where it is.
Most importantly, though, it needs to be your passion. So don't try to say, hey, I want to be an MVP now. How do I do that? No, find out what's your passion. What do you really, really love? Because as you said, Kris, right? I mean, you had to get up on Saturdays at 6. You don't do that unless you are passionate about it, unless you really want to do this. You don't want to spend your weekends or your evenings. And sometimes, what it takes to be a community leader is not what it says in your job description. A few are so lucky out there that, job description and community work kind of overlap, so they get paid to create great content for the community, which is awesome, but most of us are not that lucky, right? So besides your full-time job, being part of a community requires some effort, and that's only possible if it's a passion.
It is, right? And I'm happy that you said that, because you do have to have a passion. And it's with anything. It's not just with the MVP program or Business Central or anything. Because if somebody, I had some great mentors growing up, and that's what somebody had told me early on. They said, "Do what you enjoy, do it well, and the money will follow." It's the same type of thing. Whereas if you have passion and you're doing something because of it's your inner being that's driving it, and you really believe in it and want it, then it doesn't become work. Then you don't mind doing things. And you're doing it for a different reason. Whereas if you're doing something just for a specific reason, let's just say we want, more money, or we want to be an MVP, then if you don't make it, you may get disappointed, or you may overtry and it may have some challenges on yourself because, with your mental health or your stress or something, because of all that you're trying to do. So if you're passionate about it, it's visible. People will see that you're really in it, and you'll be driving there, which is good. I like that approach, and I'm happy that you said that, because I see many people say, "Oh, I want to be an MVP," and that's what their goal is. Their goal is not to do something. Their goal is to have the title, as they say.
The title, yeah.
That's a cool title to have, but
It is a cool title.
Not trying to minimize the title. I mean, anybody who has that, if you speak with them, I speak with many, and everyone thinks it's an honor. It truly is, and everyone that I speak with has the passion too. So I think we all know the same ones. So
yeah.
it's
So now we spoke about what it takes to kind of get into the
That's
program,
what I was
right?
going into next. Now you have your
Yeah.
niche and your passion and your driving. Now, how do we do this?
Yeah. So if you found your thing, then someone else needs to recognize you. Needs to say like, hey, that guy or girl, does doing something amazing here, and then that person nominates you, and it has to be either a fellow MVP or someone from the Microsoft team. And then of course that person has to accept and has to write a little bit about, hey, what that we call it activities. It's where you list, what did I actually do, so that this application for an MVP title then ends up on Microsoft's desks here, and we take a look at, does that person qualify? And again, as I said, there are caps, like how many can there be, and do we think, is that a good fit for the group, and so on. There are all these considerations that then flow into evaluating whether that person would be eligible for an MVP title or not. And you might get a no, but hopefully, that won't stop you from continuing your passionate work that you had before. Because if you did it for the right reasons, for your passion, because you like being a member of the community, because you like being a community driver, then whether you get the title or not shouldn't really matter too much. It should just be a token of appreciation that you got it. So you hopefully should not be thrown off your path by maybe not making it the first time. And it does happen more often than not that people do get rejected, and that is because there are a lot of people that want to join the group of MVPs, and there's only limited number of seats, right? And also people, it's very hard actually to see like, hey, is someone already maybe doing a great job over here, and I incidentally happen to want to do the same thing. So it's not, having the big picture of what is my niche is actually not as easy as it sounds. Yeah.
But just one thing, you talked about being nominated. Are there any limitations on who can be nominated as far as who you are? If you work do you have to work for a partner? Do you work for a customer? I know if you work for Microsoft, you can't be an MVP. But
that is, yeah. And I also think you'll have a hard time if you work for one of our competitors, because you will get let into, some of the more secret information. So no. Of course, I mean, you should obviously belong to the Business Central community, else I don't see any reason for you to join the Business Central MVP program. And that's the only one that I care about. I mean, of course, there are other products like, power this, power that, or you can be F&O, or you can be, something else entirely. Copilot, obviously, all the new AI groups, and you can actually also be MVP in more than one technology areas, we call them. But I'm only looking at the Business Central part of things. So I'll stick to talking about that because that's what I know.
Yeah, I love the you called out. Even if you say you get a no or you don't get nominated, there are a lot of wonderful community members that just puts work every year on great content. Maybe they don't do a lot of videos or blogging, but they always show up in conference, right? They always speak about things that they're so passionate about. They're really, really good. They've done it for years, and I've never seen them get nominated, but they keep doing it. And that's what I love about the community is that the title's amazing, right? The title's great. But at the end of the day, it's like, what's you're passionate about? And it shouldn't stop you. It shouldn't slow you down, for helping a product grow. Because, at the end of it all, like, we built careers off of this product, right? I mean, I think that's how all of us started. I mean, that's how I started. I worked as an end user, discovered Dynamics Nav, and fell in love with the product, and then like just did local user groups, right? And then after that, you kind of grow into the bigger conferences and get excited about that stuff. But and you build a career, and because of all the people that I've come to watch their speaking session, I got to learn from them. That helped me build my career. So if you think about it that way, you can make huge impact in people's lives of like young professionals, like I was, and sitting there and seeing someone speak, and it's like, yeah, I'm learning something, and then bring it back to my work, and then be a superhero at work, and then you get comfortable, and maybe you get the confidence of going up there, and you become that. And then it's like a awesome cycle to eventually. And then you may get an MVP title, right?
Eventually, enough people will notice you, right? Will know
Yes.
who you are, and will say like, "Hey, Kris, of course I know Kris." And then that's where maybe the time has come to that nomination.
So just to go back, so now we have a niche that we have passion for. We have someone who we know the requirements, that pretty much is someone who's passionate about the Business Central products in the community, can be nominated. They'd have to be nominated by either an existing MVP or someone from the Microsoft team. I'm assuming from the Business Central team, because it's the area that we're in. Now they go through the nomination. Someone you had mentioned, they would have to write something up, I'm assuming, why this person should be an MVP. Then we go into an evaluation period, correct? And what are some things that are evaluated, or what can someone do to evaluate, or how does the evaluation process go? We're going like behind the scenes on the MVP program here.
Yeah, that's pretty straightforward actually. So you'll have to list, your top, I think it's 25 activities. You can list more, but there's like a list of 25 or 26 or something. What are the accomplishments in the past year that you're most proud of? And important here is it's 1 year, one reward. So don't list stuff that you did 5 years ago, even though it might still have been a great thing that you did back then, but it doesn't really count. We will always look at the last year. And also, just quickly mentioning here, after a year, your title will have to be renewed, and you'll have to go through the exact same thing again. So it's not MVP for life, it's MVP alumni for life. Yes, once you have the title, you will forever have been part of the MVP group. But the actual, to be part of to stay part of the program, you actually will have to get a renewal. So this process where you go through your activities and see like, hey, what great things did I do for the community in the past year, you'll have to do every year. And there you simply, but let's just say, you went to Directions NA and you had some sessions, and you write down like, well, I did a session on this and that, and this was my reach, there were that many people in the room, and then maybe it was recorded or something, so you had a bit broader reach. And then I'm going to go in and say like, well, that's pretty cool, but 25 others, no, that's not enough. 150 others also had sessions in Directions NA. So it's a good start, right? But then you maybe also went to Summit, and then you maybe help, set up this user group in the Philippines, and well, then you also had a podcast, which, a lot of people listen to. And then slowly, this picture shapes like, okay, that person is definitely a community leader still, and has really in the last year done things for the community that were appreciated and noticed by others. And that can actually, it can be one huge activity, like something that is just, if someone says like, hey, podcast, and then people say, Brad and Kris, if we get to that, and there is no competitor, it's like there is just one podcast, then that would actually might just be enough, right? If you have weekly, bi-weekly episodes, you will do so much for the community through this one effort that it's plenty. Or if you have many small things, then of course it's a little bit, it's probably good to have something that people see as a synonym to you. So when I say this name, then people think something.
I understand.
Might also be, you are a super expert in item tracking. And so item tracking, oh yeah, sure, ask Kris. Everyone, like if you have built somehow this notion that people will put your name synonyms to something else, then you have de facto become a community leader in that, right? And if that is an important area, then that is enough.
Yeah, so you build your persona, right? Like, oh yeah,
Exactly.
that first person fits there. Yeah,
I like that. This is good. I like the deep understanding here, because I know that there's a lot of questions about this this program. So I'm happy that we're sort of unpacking it. I have a lot more questions, but I'm not going to ask them.
Yeah.
There's almost every conferences, or at least I've been to, would have ask the MVPs, and surprisingly, a lot of the questions get asked not necessarily about becoming an MVP. It's about the products and what have we seen and things like that. So I had an opportunity to be part of that, the Dynamics Con. So it was a humbling feeling because for me, I came in there thinking like, okay, they want to be, a lot of people maybe want to become an MVP and they want to know the process. They can clearly now listen to this podcast, what it takes to it. But at the same time, like in those sessions, it's like, hey, I got this problem. Like, how would you solve it, right? Or where is the product going in your opinion? So I love this session because then it kind of puts us, we have to be honest, right? Like, okay, are we really an expert?
I think 5 years ago, actually, we had this Ask the MVPs where we would invite people on stage, or like not people, MVPs on stage, but the group was smaller, right? So it was Directions EMEA, there might be 15 people or something. And it was in the US, there might have been 10 MVPs on stage, and then the audience could ask questions. But then at some point, I think we were 35 or something on that stage, and it just, MVPs love to talk because they have so much on their mind. Everyone has an opinion. And I think we got through 2 or 3 questions, and it was just chaos. So they're like, yeah, maybe we've outgrown that format of Ask the MVPs.
Yes, I think so. Some do like to speak.
Yeah, Kris, but you're right. I mean, that is also, people look towards MVPs for guidance, right? To get the question answered because you have been marked as being one of the most knowledgeable professionals out there. So that's kind of also what that award should give you. Also, I guess if you are a speaker, you might have an easier time getting a slot in one of the bigger events when you are an MVP. So that's one of the perks, I think, that come with that title.
There are many perks that come with it. It's also a great group of people, by the way. It's I've met so many people that are truly genuine and passionate people at Business Central, and it's strange. You almost become friends with people around the world virtually. And then when you get to meet them in person, it's great. And it's also with other community members. It's not just the MVPs, but the MVP group's great. So just
that should be the next thing we talk about here. Then when you have made it into the MVP program, then what you get of it, right? Because
well, before we get into that, so now we have the nomination, we have the criteria. How long does it take?
Oh, that depends a bit. But we do let new MVPs in every month. But there are a few things that need to, go through the system and whatnot, but usually it can be as quickly as I think 2 months or something, but it might drag out a little because also like depending on how many new applicants come in, I also have a normal daytime job, so it's sometimes I just need to say like, hey, I'm going to stack up a few and then I'm going to do a review.
So after your nomination, it should take 2 or more months. So don't expect to hear tomorrow.
It's not going to be within a week or two. No.
Okay.
Because you write out your application and then it has to go through the system, and then eventually, every beginning of the month I get a list of now there are new candidates in the system and go review. Then I do my review and then I send them on, and then there's some regional people that look at is this market saturated or not, and then it goes on to the next level. And then at the end of the day, everyone needs to have said, yes, this person should be an MVP for the Business Central group, in my case. And then that person's going to get a thumbs up.
Okay.
I think, again, on the 1st of the month. So just yesterday or the day before yesterday, there was a new one.
Yes, there was another member of the. As I always say, welcome to the party. Congratulations, everyone who gets it. It's honestly well deserved. I mean, the individuals that get picked, I know from the Business Central community, are amazing individuals as well. So now,
2 months, give or take.
Say it again, please.
2 months, give or take.
Okay.
That's
excellent. So now, what comes with it, and then also the renewal period period's one time per year, correct? You have to submit.
Yes. So that's for the fiscal year at Microsoft, which always runs from July to June. So I don't know why it's not from December to December, but it's like mid-year. For that year, and then you would typically get to know like, hey, now it's time for your annual renewal process. I think probably in March or something, and you would hopefully you have already collected all the things that you did, because if you haven't, then you got some work to do. But then you kind of fill out the tool, and then again the same thing happens. Until the I think first of March or 1st of June, May or June, I have to then go through the list of all of the MVPs together with my team. I, of course, I'll not just look at the activities that are listed, but I'll also ask here within the product group, like, has anyone, noticed Brad? Has he done anything good for us lately? And like, yeah, I work with Brad and he helped me here and there, and like, he's a great, and like, of course, all that feedback, I try to gather feedback. I also, like, when I've had the opportunity to watch you live somewhere, I will have made my little notes, like, or when I participate in a podcast, I will like, are these guys actually, will they let me talk or will they constantly interrupt me? No, I gather feedback, right? And then together with the with all the feedback from the product group and the activities that you've listed, you kind of form a picture whether we think you are
excellent,
still a good match for the program.
So the renewals in June, when did the renewals get announced? So a new nominee within 2 or more months later, not within 2 months. And then for the renewals, you said of July to June. So when did the renewals get announced for those MVPs?
I think it's the beginning of July.
Beginning of July.
So starts, you will get an email. It's usually where people like MVP sit and hit refresh, and then
yeah, 30 days then from now on.
That's a specific date for that. Sometimes it moves a little bit, so I don't really have the date. But I know that I had to submit all of my stuff by the 1st of June this time around.
Excellent.
So now it's like out of my hands.
Now you can see if you overruled or not.
Yeah. And that's actually kind of nice that I'm not the only one with any power here. Like, it's good to have more people look at it and send. And of course, I don't sit by myself, right? I will go to the product group, to the other members of the Business Central team, and see if they observe the same things that I did. So
it's a lot of work,
but it takes some time, right?
Yeah.
With almost 70 individuals to discuss, and you want to be fair, and so it's actually quite the process.
I can imagine. That's what I was thinking. With that number of people, it's a lot of work for you to check in to validate.
I also would say, like, hey, I've got this great blog, and then you click on the blog and you see, well, it has had 50 visitors in the past year. It's like, okay, is that now, what am I missing? Is the counter off? And then you need to start looking, does someone else mention this blog? Or also the content in the blog, right? Is it like just a rewrite of something that someone else wrote or maybe just shortened it? Like, what's the value of this? Does it bring anything new to the table? So, with every MVP listing up till 25 primary activities, there's a lot of investigation to be done.
I can imagine.
I
cannot imagine. So you started talking about some of the benefits of being an MVP. So other than having a connection with other passionate members, what are some of the other benefits?
No, I do think that the community that comes with it is the ultimate benefit.
Oh,
here,
that absolutely.
Though it's not a Microsoft paid benefit, but having other MVPs on speed dial, and whatever problem you run into, you can almost be certain there's someone that can help you because they are so skilled and knowledgeable. Right?
I laugh because you say to have them on speed dial. That's absolutely true. It's true. Yeah. Because if you have a question, if you have a problem, it's almost like you shoot it out there and you have all of these individuals.
Well, you become friends.
Well, they're more than willing to help,
so
and they come up with the answers, where sometimes it's just really nice. It's an extreme benefit. Which also, as you said, it's a benefit, but you are also part of that yourself because you are providing a lot of value, as you had mentioned, to the community as well. So it's not like you become an MVP and you get all this, free speed dial talent to work with. You're also part of that group, and you can provide that same information to others as well. So I just want to be clear that it's not a one-way street, as we say.
Some actually also have these groups or these networks outside of the MVP program. It's just another network that you get into, and it's kind of like, somehow people find each other in that group.
Yeah.
So that's and then what else? I mean, yeah, sure, you get a license for this and that. I don't even know specifically right now what license we want, but I think it's a Business Central license and then some M365 license and whatnot. So that's more like the tangible benefits. But that's just for you to be enabled to test the product better.
Create more content.
I do. Maybe it was my naivety at the beginning, just to share on some of that as far as what you get access to. But the benefits, the tangible benefits, are extremely helpful to allow you to drive more passion or more inspiration to others with the community, because it's tough to be someone who's passionate about the product if you don't have access to it all the way. So some of the benefits they have with giving you the Business Central license, they give you some Azure credits as well, so you can do some of the Azure functions, or use some of the Azure services with some credits. Copilot Studio was another big one that now you can work with Copilot Studio with Business Central. So it does help those that are out there promoting the product, be able to have access to that as well. So
it gets you more motivated, right? Because now you have all these tools, and for you to be very passionate about the program or Business Central, it allows you to like, oh, maybe I should try this or do this, and have it all talk to each other and whatnot. So it does motivate you to create more content, so that eventually will help.
It just makes you have less of a life, Chris. It doesn't. I don't know if it's motivating. You get lost and you're stuck saying, "Oh,
that is true." Because there's sometimes
try.
at night I'm trying to figure it out. Like, oh, maybe how could I make this work?
How can I make Business Central connect to this language model so I can use it locally? Right? They give me all the tools. Now I have to play with them, which is good. I mean, it is. It's
there's Stefano Dumia. He will be able to tell you about that. Right?
Yes.
That's the thing, right? That's the niche where he kind of established himself.
Jeez, with the stuff he is doing is. I don't want to go down that, to take us on too much of a tangent, but the stuff he's doing is
so yeah. But now you've got this new MVP community, and you've got some licenses, but then also, and that's depends a little bit on which product you're an MVP for. But at least for Business Central, we also try to. So we do what we call PGIs, it's product group interactions. Those are meetings where you meet up with the product group. And it's not supposed to just be a one-way communication, because that, at least for now, I'm only speaking on behalf of the Business Central team, because this is different for other teams. But we also have these partner office hours, right, where we tell you like, hey, here's some new cool features, and this is how they work. But that's kind of when these features are done, and we're just trying to, teach the community what have we done and how do you use these things. But that's not really where our MVPs shine. I would like to involve MVPs earlier in the development process, and that's where these PGIs come in. So we kind of also share thoughts. Every MVP is under NDA, so you can't just go out and like after these PGIs and start blogging about what you heard, unless specifically that we say, hey, this is okay, go ahead. But we can prep the MVP channel, right, to say here's what's coming. And so that you can be ready with your content when the product releases, because that's a win-win. When we have the big moment, the big bang, like here's a new release, and then we have someone to evangelize and then to kind of go out and teach the other community members, like, hey, this just came and this is how you use it, and look how cool it is. Then that's just again a win-win. So you do get closer to the product group when you're in Business Central MVP. You do get a peek behind the curtain. We will throw some balls in the air, and you can catch whatever you want. Let's just say, hey, now we just had the sustainability model, and if you care about sustainability, and you say, hey, that would be cool. We're gonna say like, hey, we're gonna develop sustainability module. Would anyone be interested in helping us with that? And then you can say like, yeah, keep me in the loop. And then we're going to share our plans, going to give you test environments sometimes, and try to at least prep you. And also, like, because you have the outside view, right? You might actually already have had some customers talking about this. So we're going to listen to whatever feedback you come with as an MVP. And yeah, so that is one of the parts that I value the most and that I try to drive. Because I think, again, there's so much to win when product group and MVP group move closer together than, quote unquote, just making you evangelists of the stuff that we do.
It's the saying that you say often is great. It's together we win, which is true. It's if everybody contributes, I say over and over, rising tides raise all ships. So if the product does well, we all do well that have the passion and about it. And also you have those that evangelize it. If they can have something to help them be able to evangelize a little bit more, then the product wins as well too. So it's, it's a large world.
It's a long-term play.
No, it is. It's I'll be sad when I have to retire one day and maybe stop using it.
You're not going to retire, man. You'd be bored.
The way that I run around, I won't know what to do. I took vacation for the first time in a long time.
You did what now? I don't think I know that.
Not in a vocabulary.
That is no. I took a real vacation. I didn't. I did not use social media. I fell off the face of. Some people say I fell off the face of the earth for a while, which was great. I had a lot of good family time, which was good, and I decided to purposely not check anything. And it was
so nice.
It was so rewarding.
I mean, in Europe, we're a little bit spoiled because we have a little bit more vacation, I think, than you guys in the US.
You have a lot more.
Yeah.
During summer, I tend to take 3 weeks in one block because the first week I will kind of cool down and like just need to park all my thoughts that are Business Central related. Then I've got 1 week where there's absolute radio silence and nothing, like it's all about family and vacation time. And then the last week is like, okay, now I need to, and then I start thinking Business Central again. So 3 weeks is perfect if you can ever.
And for that reason, I think the 3 weeks is perfect. But when you're in that 1 week, and that's sort of where I was with that radio silence, it was, I say this because I encourage others to do it, because as often as people think, I'm going to miss something, as I always say to Kris, nobody cares. Like, you don't miss much. You know what you miss if you're trying to worry about all that stuff? You miss your vacation. This is what I realized a long time ago. Whereas if you focus on what it is, everything will be there when you come back. You can catch up if you need to. And even if you miss some stuff,
Hey, perfect example of why AI is important, right? Like if you even take that as an example as part of your speaking session, how you can utilize AI. Dude, I'm with you. I went camping. I was out for a week as well. Came back and just had everything summarized.
That's exactly what I
didn't feel like I missed anything. Right? I knew what I had to, like, what's my priority?
No.
Dude, that's amazing. It's a perfect example.
Copilot with Outlook is, and I'm not just saying it because we're talking with Jesper from Microsoft, but Copilot with Outlook was great because I did the same exact thing. I said, summarize my emails by topic. And I told it what to do. And it gave me a good bullet list of things to go by. And it was, to go with Jesper's point earlier, is you can do more now. So now I wasn't so inundated with trying to read through everything. And believe it or not, it was pretty accurate. I did.
I mean, I use it like every day, obviously. Also like when you're late to a meeting and you can summarize and get you up to speed. Because sometimes you've got these overlapping meetings, or maybe even meetings where I won't play an active part. I just won't participate, and I just have it give me a resume. And should it be the case that I feel by the resume, I missed out on something here, well, then I can watch the recording and get all the gory details. But more often than not, everything was in the resume. Like all the important things.
I laugh because we're the same. And I even say now when I have meetings on Teams, I tell everyone I'm going to record it for transcription only, just so that we can summarize it. So that way I don't have to worry about taking notes. So these are.
And you can even ask, like, is there anything that I need to do? Did someone call me out? So it's like you don't miss out. So because sometimes people forget to let you know, like, hey, this is Kris's responsibility. I just asked Copilot.
We'll have the world where we'll have AI in the meetings only. Then we have the meeting and nobody has to be there. This is where I think we're going. We're going to a world where just nobody will just expect AI to do everything, because now I can be absent from a meeting in a sense. AI
but I actually wouldn't want that, because this personal interaction is actually some of the more important stuff. But I want to be in the meetings where I really, again, something that has to do with passion, right? I want to be in the meetings where I feel like I make a difference.
Yes.
It's just a meeting where I need to sit in just to be informed. Well, then have Copilot make me a resume and let me spend 5 minutes on this rather than an hour.
Yeah.
But in the meetings where I feel like I make a difference, I want to be, and I want to have these candid conversations, and that's what makes
it's that connection.
And that's where I think in this world will be, is relationships are going to be the most important in the future. It's no longer going to be some of the other things that we focus on now, but having that human relationship is going to be the most important.
I hope so.
I think so, and I hope so. Well, Mr. Jesper, sir.
I have a question really quick, because Jesper, you had called out regional director, and I've seen them everywhere. Are those regional directors specific to products as well? And if so, does BC have
with
one?
the terminology again, because regional director, I think, is also a title in the MVP program where you can, and then there's also inside. I don't think they're called. It's just some acronym again or something. But there are people that are specialized on a market and say, like, hey, maybe that person does something, particularly important or relevant to the market in Asia or something. So
Gotcha. Okay, just curious.
There's some terminology mix up there, but
terminology gets us all the time. Well, Mr. Jesper, thank you very much for taking the time to speak to us today. I always look forward to speaking with you. I'll have to speak with you quite more. We'll have to have like a regular coffee hour or something to catch up on the world.
Always fun.
It's always fun. But thank you for all that you do for Business Central. Thank you for all that you do for the partners with the co-development with the partner program, and also in helping with the MVP program, where we can have some wonderful, talented individuals within the MVP program.
And very important, like if you wanna jump aboard the co-development, find me on LinkedIn, write me a message, like, hey, I don't know how to start, and I'll be happy to like literally hold your hand and guide you through it, like how because it might seem like, oh my God, how do I even get started in the complex process? But with a little bit of help, it's easy enough. And also there are many MVPs out there that have tried it before, right, Brad? I mean, you've made your contribution.
I wanted to do more. Don't call me out. I did fix a spelling mistake. I did fix a spelling mistake recently. I was going to mention.
And that's appreciated. Now it's gone.
Even the contributions to anybody there, that even if you see a spelling mistake, making a spelling mistake or something simple like that, it doesn't have to be a big.
Start with that.
It doesn't have to be a big, complex solution, is what I'm trying to say. But even something as minor that makes the product better by correcting syntactical error or maybe some grammatical or spelling errors.
Or it might have to be slightly, you saw something like, hey, why does it behave like this on the sales side, but on the purchase side, it's just slightly different. It drives me crazy. Well, create an issue and we'll take a look at it. It's like, yeah, man, these things should behave the same way. And then you can fix it once and for all and everyone will be happy, right? So anyway, whatever you need or think, or like, start slow, but start. And I'm super happy to help you there. And I think, LinkedIn or Viva Engage is probably the easiest way to get hold of me these days. So please do. And also, if you are curious about the MVP program, I'm also always happy to talk about that. Or just chat about AI and the world and whatever.
That we'll have to have another talk on, because I love those AI conversations. But thank you again for all that you, and also thank you very much for taking the time to speak with us. I know time is valuable, and every minute that you have, once you spend, you don't get back. And you spending it with us is extremely valuable and appreciated from both of us. So thank you, and talk with you soon. Ciao, ciao.
Thanks, Jesper.
Right.
Thank you, Kris, for your time for another episode of In the Dynamics Corner Chair. And thank you to our guests for participating.
Thank you, Brad, for your time. It is a wonderful episode of Dynamics Corner Chair. I would also like to thank our guests for joining us. Thank you for all of our listeners tuning in as well. You can find Brad at developerlife.com. That is DVLPRLIFE.com. And you can interact with them via Twitter, DVLPRLIFE. You can also find me at matalino.io, MATALINO.io. And my Twitter handle is Matalino16. And you can see those links down below in the show notes. Again, thank you, everyone. Thank you, and take care.